Hi, everybody. Welcome to IFMA's webinar series on Wednesdays. Today, our subject is Next Level Reuse, How to Ditch the Dumpster. Let me know where you're joining us from. My name is Kim Jackson. I'm with IFMA, and I am joining from Houston, Texas today. And I'm so pleased that IFMA is partnering with Green Standards to really be looking at this very important topic. We're going to be able to give FMs real stories, simple strategies, and repeatable processes, which equals proof that ditching the dumpster is good for business and also your sanity. I love that. It's my pleasure to introduce Heidi Frazier. She is the head of sustainability at Green Standards. And Heidi, you have such a wealth of information. So I'm really looking forward to this webinar. And how do we ditch the dumpster?
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate the intro. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about next level reuse, how to ditch the dumpster. And I'm actually thrilled to have my colleagues, Sarah and Rebecca, with me on the webinar today. Sarah, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I am the head of community impact at Green Standards. I like to say, AKA head of the donations team. I've been with Green Standards 7 years now. Previously held roles as a project manager. And as well, I actually helped to start the resale team, which then I graciously handed over to Rebecca. So she'll intro herself now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Nolan Samuel, and as Sarah said, I'm the head of resale here at Green Standards. I've been with Green Standards for about just over 6 years, and I started as a project coordinator on the donations team, and now we run the resale team, which has grown exponentially in the last couple of years here at Green Standards.
Awesome. Thanks for those intros, ladies. As some know that the built environment has a waste problem. This is an old metric from the US EPA. Around 10 million tons of office waste ends up in landfills each year. And we know that this number has probably grown exponentially, especially post-pandemic. This is equal to 1 task chair thrown away per person in the US and Canada each year. So it's a significant waste problem. And here at Green Standards, we believe there's a better way. We believe in next level reuse. We have been in business for over 15 years and really working collaboratively with our clients to help keep assets out of use and out of landfill and in use for as long as possible. We have over $50 million of in-kind donations facilitated on behalf of our clients. 128,000 tons, we deal in tons and not pounds, diverted from landfill. We're averaging a 98% diversion rate from landfill, and over 150 million square feet have been managed to date. What's in scope? So if you rip the roof of a Class A office building off and dump it upside down and shake it out, anything that might fall out, anything in between your flooring tiles and your ceiling tiles. And we're going to talk about some of the crazy finds we've found from doing business as long as we have. But you can imagine it's anything from electronics to furniture and everything in between. And we're operating globally. We facilitate sustainable decommissioning in over 40 plus countries and growing. And we're traditionally working with Fortune 500, Fortune 100 clients that have an enterprise level portfolio that want the same level of service throughout their portfolio. We try to maximize value for every asset in an office cleanout, and we do that through a waste hierarchy approach. So first we come in with a consultative approach and look at reuse potential. Do you have existing reuse potential within the assets that you already have? That's usually the best case scenario. It's the lowest cost and the lowest carbon solution to reuse. Then we look to our resale network, and Rebecca's going to dive a little bit deeper on that subject, and donation network. Sarah's going to talk a lot more about donation for us. And then recycling, what we can't find reuse potential for in the reuse and resell networks, we're going to look for at least pulling those component parts that have value in our recycling networks. And all these networks are vetted and built up over the years, and that's actually one of our differentiators. There is a cost to doing the wrong thing. There's just a couple snapshots here that show what happens when you don't go through a service like Green Standards and you actually just drop things off in the landfill or in a dumpster. There's a risk associated with doing the wrong thing. And here at Green Standards, we help clients avoid that risk and liability by keeping those assets back in the local communities and benefiting the local communities for good. So Rebecca, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit more about the resale process and how that works?
Of course. Thanks so much, Heidi. So, yeah, let's dive into the resale process, how it helps our clients extend the life of their assets and also save money along the way. So, what most people think of as liquidation during a decommission process, we call resale here at Green Standards. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's reselling high value assets to both return value to our client, but also to extend a product from primary use to its secondary use through life cycle extension. We're able to do this because of our extensive global network of buyers, and it's not just furniture. Our buyers base covers a huge range of products, though our largest focus continues to be on furniture. That variety really matters because furniture buyers tend to be regional and brand specific about what they buy. Having depth and diversity in that network is what drives success. And honestly, right now across North America, clients are more cost sensitive than ever. Being able to return value through resale makes sustainable workplace change not just possible, but more affordable.
Can you tell us a little bit? You talk about life cycle extension. What exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we talk about extending life cycle, we're talking about helping a product move beyond its first or primary life. Even though most manufacturers design for a 12-year or more lifespan, we're seeing the office refresh cycle happen at a much faster rate, usually within 3 to 7 years. That means a lot of perfectly good product is being replaced early and is often going to landfill. Our goal is really simple. It's to keep that product in use in its original or in its augmented form for as long as possible. Through resale, we work with buyers who remanufacture and refurbish high-value products, giving them a like-new condition. This avoids the need to buy new and in turn reduces greenhouse gas emissions that come from manufacturing fresh products.
That's awesome. So I think something that differentiates Green Standards is our human-led approach. Can you talk a little bit about our human-led approach versus anonymous liquidation?
For sure, for sure. So it's one of my favorite topics because it's something that Green Standards has really been focusing on driving our resale program. Traditional liquidation is fast, but it's really impersonal. It usually involves lot pricing, so where buyers bid on everything that's in scope at once. It often means that high value items are getting undervalued, and many of these unwanted items that liquidators are taking are going to landfill. It's simple. Everything is taken, but most products are not actually being reused. We take a different approach because of our large relationship-driven network. We can be proactive and precise when looking at all of the available inventory. For example, we recently saw a client miss out on over $1 million because they hadn't planned to sell their Aeron chairs during decommissioning. Time pressure, and construction constraints got in the way, but these chairs had some serious value associated with them. During workplace change, it's so important to be able to identify these high-value items from the start and be able to identify their true value that can offset their project costs. And at Green Standards, that's what we're doing. We're helping to identify these opportunities early, calling out high value items at the start of a project so we can project what those project costs are going to be offset by. We also target multiple resellers for a single inventory. Maybe one of our buyers wants 200 workstations while another is focused on expanding their sit-stand inventory. By splitting inventory strategically, we maximize bids on a per item scale while reducing what gets disposed of. Some people call this cherry picking. I call it effective in reducing waste. And I actually encourage our buyers to do it. For the items that don't fit into resale, our human-led valuation helps us find the next best stream, whether that's donation or recycling. We have 2 teams that are trained to analyze inventory and determine their fit for next best use. Ultimately, it's going to come down to transparency, relationships, and better returns for our clients.
That's awesome, Rebecca. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit? I know we have some remanufacturers, refurbishers in our network. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process and how that works?
Of course, of course. So let's be realistic. We currently live in a disposable society. Most products are made to be replaced and not repaired. Think of, electronics, our phones that we're buying, our clothing. We buy them knowing that they're not going to last long. Furniture, however, is often different. It's become like a booming industry in the secondhand or used market. And the focus on office furniture has grown exponentially in recent years, especially since COVID. Through our resale process, our buyers who work as remanufacturers and refurbishers extend the life cycle of the product by remanufacturing them or making them like new. That could mean replacing arm caps, cylinders, casters, or reupholstering task and lounge seating. For a workstation, it could involve cutting down panels, refabricating them, reconfiguring the footprint, and essentially making them like brand new again. Even filing systems can be resized, repainted to fit in new spaces. On these slides here, you can actually see that process happening. So in the first photo, we see a steaming mechanism that helps remove glue and fabric from a chair seat. The second one is reupholstering of workstation panels. And the third, how you can cut down filing cabinets to make them fit into that new space. All of this work together can add another 3 to 10 years of life to a product. So giving it a full second life of it instead of it going to landfill. So overall, Green Standards Global Resale Network, which is over 350 buyers strong, is a huge part of how we're able to create that impact. Last year alone, we generated over $2.4 million in resale value across our projects. And to demonstrate how that works on a project per project basis, we can look at a recent project in Austin where we sold lounge furniture, air-on task chairs, and desks to 3 different buyers across multiple phases. The client was actually able to net over $250,000 in resale value, making their project more affordable while also keeping product in use through resale and donation. And that's what resale is all about: extending life, reducing waste, and bringing real financial return to workplace change.
I love those win-win opportunities. And it reminds me to not forget about those warehouse storage opportunities where you might have some storage or warehousing where you're sitting on some value. I think it makes sense to kind of shake those warehouses down and find that value and make sure that you're either getting resale potential from those assets or getting those assets back into their local communities through donations. Last year alone, Green Standards was able to help save clients over $1.5 million in storage fees. So don't forget about those warehousing opportunities as well. It's a good segue that we truly believe that the landfill does not deserve your furniture. Your local communities do. And so that's a good segue to Sarah. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the donation process at Green Standards?
Perfect. Thanks so much for bringing that all together. So this is where we really stand out and where we help to take the load off of you. Because wherever we work, we've already got a network in place. So the moment you tell us it's go time, we're in action. Within hours, we can reach out to our network to share the available inventory, giving them a chance to browse it and select exactly what makes sense for them.
What makes our process unique at Green Standards, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. So there's really 2 aspects, and I'll touch on those, that from the donations perspective have helped us really, really narrow this in. So one of the biggest parts is that it's not an all or nothing situation. So as Rebecca touched on it with resale, we stand by the same perspective when it comes to donating. Our beneficiaries can request only the items they need without worrying what to do with the rest. So for you, that means we can fit the puzzle together perfectly, matching the right recipients with the items they need. That way, nothing automatically goes to landfill. The second piece that makes it unique is how we handle logistics. We deliver for free to the nonprofits. So too often, we find donations have fallen through because recipients can't figure out how to pick up the items they need. So maybe they can't get volunteers, can't organize the right vehicle. They simply can't make that fit work. So then you're stuck wondering well, what do I do with all this stuff now? We had a plan, didn't happen. Basically, you're stuck with figuring out a plan B. So we've been able to do this long enough to know now our process fits the bill. It works for us, it works for you, and we're really able to replicate it wherever you need us to. Perfect. So once everything is set in motion, logistics, coordination, the network, you might be wondering how does it actually all come together? And this is where our team shines. We have furniture you no longer need. It's perfectly good, but you just don't know where to send it. And that's where we come in to help you. We've spent years building our connections globally with nonprofit communities to solve that exact dilemma. Our network now includes more than 25,000 nonprofit contacts who are all eagerly waiting for the message that says hey, we've got furniture for you. Over time, we've learned that furniture budgets for nonprofits basically can often be non-existent. And if it's a school, just none at all, period. I've actually recently worked with a principal, and she told me she was about to spend $7,000 on just 3 filing cabinets because the old ones broke. The school board wouldn't fund any replacements. So with the help of one of our clients, we redirected those cabinets. The money went right back to students where it belonged.
I love that. I know the donation process can be really time consuming and hard to manage. How does your team take that burden off of our clients?
Yeah. So, because we've developed such a broad and diverse network, we actually span over 30 industries in the nonprofit and education sectors. We can take the heavy lifting off of your plate. Where you might have to sit there calling, Googling, researching who's in the area, we've already got that planned out. So, we're able to find the nonprofits, take the orders, coordinate deliveries. All of that takes time for you, energy you may not have when you're decommissioning a space, and we get that. Like, you want to do the right thing, but sometimes the right thing can be hard. So that's why we're here. We've got an amazing team with years of experience. We fine-tune the process to handle every bump, every complexity that might come up. So really, your transition in your project is smooth from start to finish. Chairs, tables, desks, like lounge chairs, task chairs, coffee tables, cafeteria tables, storage units, kitchen appliances, like you name it, almost every piece you can imagine can find a second life somewhere else. It's about reframing how we think about these items. So, for example, that round table that sits in the corner of an exec's office doesn't have to stay in a corporate space. It can easily become a family space to eat meals at together or for the kids to do homework at when they come home from school. When we take the time to think outside the box, like we see that good furniture, it doesn't have to go to waste. We can extend its life and help communities who truly need it.
I love that. Your team is really doing some impactful work in our local communities, and it's one of the reasons that I'm proud to work at Green Standards. You probably come across some really great stories over the years. Want to tell us one of your favorite stories of a nonprofit donation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I am blessed to get to work somewhere where every day I get to hear good stories about the work that we do. But the one you see here, I think honestly, it's just like a picture speaks a thousand words. So this was some photos I received recently from Okapika, which I'll give the full name. It's a bit of a mouthful, but they were founded in 1997 with the mission to build healthier, stronger communities to support the well-being of Asian and Pacific Islander residents through service, education, advocacy, research. Over time, they've really expanded their mission to just serve all underserved communities, regardless of background. But working with nonprofits like them has taught us something really important, that when it comes to reuse, we can almost drop the word circular, because with nonprofits, they will literally use their furniture until the last thread, like until it can't be used anymore. Because most don't have budgets for new furniture and equipment, when they receive a quality item, it can make a difference. I mean, a big one, like the desk, the chair, the table, it's not a temporary fix. Like when we give them those items, we are giving them a gift that might last them 5, 10, or 15 plus years. So in the end, that is the real impact. We're extending the life of the product, but also supporting these organizations that are doing critical work in their community.
It's one of my favorite stories recently too, Sarah. But it brings up another one where actually it involved all three of us. We had a design firm come to us based out of New York City, and they had a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit that had no budget for new furniture, and they needed to outfit their new space. They're a really great organization called Rise, based out of New York City, that is helping to support immigration advocacy, which here in the States is very timely and needed. And they needed new furniture to fit out that space. And so we all three came together and supported that initiative. And it was really fun working with both Sarah and Rebecca on this project. Sarah helped from the donation perspective. Rebecca helped from the remanufacturing side of things. We helped to backfill whatever they didn't get from remanufacturing products from the donations. And it really was really impactful story. In the end, they ended up saving over $50,000 to outfit their space with a budget that they just was non-existent, to Sarah's point. And so it was really exciting to be able to get to work on that project. And it was one of my favorite stories recently. Over the years, I'm sure you both have come in contact with some really wild finds and crazy things. And just curious, what's maybe the wildest things you guys have come across?
And Sarah, do you want to start this one? I feel like you see way more inventory.
For sure. Always fun to see. I mean, we think we work in a corporate space and we never fail to get some fun surprises. I can touch on some of them here for sure. So the top left corner is, in fact, a room full of paper. I remember when the project manager gave me this, he was so skeptical, like, what are we going to do with this? And the response was overwhelmingly positive. What you're looking at is a room of 8 pallets of paper. We actually donated 17 pallets of paper and supplies out to the community in the Seattle area. But the picture you see is actually community center, who said they could not have been more grateful because they print off pamphlets every week for the community center. And so this was just such a huge savings for them, and they were more than happy to accept that many pallets of paper. And below is a huge shuffleboard. We originally thought this was going towards a Habitat for Humanity restore, and well, it did. But in the end, they decided that it was so fun that they kept it for their own staff's just wellness and culture internally. So that was a cool one to see. See the process and see something so large get saved.
Yeah, and that's something my buyers are often looking for too. Sometimes they're touring some of our offices and they see, video games and shuffleboards and ping pong tables and kegerators like we see here, and they're like, I want to bring that back to my office. So that's always interesting as well. Like I mentioned before, in resale, we traditionally were reselling furniture assets for our clients, but that's grown a lot in the last couple of years. Some of the things that we've sold in the last few years are, hand sanitizer during COVID for some of our clients. Art, even frames, plants, large plants that were in office buildings. But one of the biggest things I've ever sold on the resale team was forklifts, as you can see in this photo. So we actually ended up having a client that was selling many forklifts across North America, and we were able to find a remanufacturer for this equipment. So they update it, finish it off, and send it out to buyers of used forklifts. So it was really cool to see our scope expand to something that is not traditionally found in an office, but into warehousing. And that's gone further into, racking systems and items like that, even pallets. There's always a second use for something, is what I've learned.
And what about this clock picture? What's the story there?
Yeah. So this is one of thousands of clocks that came from a client of ours in the San Fran area. You know what? Truly, they just realized that over time, people weren't looking up at clocks anymore. I think, as we all can attest, most of us look right here for the time. And they realized, they were putting a lot of labor into switching the clocks with every time change, changing the batteries, and recognized there might be other people that could make better use of these. So we distributed about 1,000 clocks around the San Fran area, mostly to schools, which was really wonderful, being able to update the clocks in classrooms where kids don't look down at their phones every few minutes, we hope, and can actually read a clock in their classroom instead.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys, for all those stories. So now we're going to jump into what hopefully is a fun interactive game. It's called Next Best Use. And so we're going to throw up a photo, and then each of us is going to put up a paddle indicating what the next best use would be for that and to avoid landfill. So are you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go. We have workstations. Rebecca, you want to go first?
I'll go first. Yeah, for sure. So as funny as it is, workstations from 20 years ago are still selling on the resale market. Our Reman partners, so I should hold up the Reman tag, are actually able, like I said, to reconfigure these stations completely and have them as a whole new footprint for their clients. So the look that's really, really popular right now is 6x6 with like a mid-high panel. So a lot of these older workstations that we're seeing coming out of clients' buildings are super high panel and a little bit dated, let's say, on the material. So our Reman partners are able to pull off the material off those, reupholster them, cut them down to make them much more palatable for clients today.
That's awesome. So the core materials are getting another use there.
Yeah.
And then Sarah, what about you? Donation?
Sure. So sometimes I put my paddle up because while many nonprofits don't have capacity and physical space to have big workstations, when we do get smaller, sleeker workstations, sometimes we do placement of those.
Okay, awesome. And then I put my recycle paddle up because if we can't find a next best reuse for these, we will look to recycle the metal content in them. All right, next one, we have a wooden bookcase.
That would definitely be me. Very few bookcases ever make their way to recycling. I mean, I think every office, every classroom can benefit with, a spot to store books, supplies, paperwork. So that's definitely a donatable item.
Sarah, do you have a beneficiary that most frequently requests items like that? Is it schools mostly?
Honestly, it's really across the board. Bookcases are universally appreciated.
That's awesome. All right, everyone's favorite Erin chair.
I think Sarah would like to raise her paddle for
I
this.
was going to say, I wish.
Battle it out.
So Aeron chairs continue to be one of the most desired chairs on the market. And it's funny, I can pull both resale and reman because we deal with chairs that are, that were manufactured in 2019. We're also dealing with Aeron chairs that were manufactured in 1999.
Wow.
It's there's a huge range here. Aeron chairs, typically the only issues we end up seeing with them is some damage to the mesh, which is the irreparable damage. But like I said before, arm caps can be replaced, just like new. They're slotted in casters, just so that the chair all kind of wears down at the same time for the second life. So absolutely one of our biggest selling items and one of the most desired items on the resale market. And that goes for any high value chair.
So I was just going to say, anyone who's listening, if you have high value chairs that you no longer need, get a hold of Rebecca. All right. Next, a broken chair.
And maybe recycling too, right, Heidi?
Yeah, a little bit of recycling.
I was going to say hi to you too.
So on the reman side of things, as long as it's a high value chair, so that I would say from one of the big manufacturers, one of our major manufacturers across North America, these chairs can be absolutely refurbished, and honestly, often are just to get the new material on. Right, when a second life is going to a chair, they're going to be reupholstering that often anyway. So it's an opportunity for them to reupholster a chair, make it look brand new again, and sell it to a secondary user.
And then on the recycling side, we would love for Rebecca to take this and resell it because from a recycling perspective, quite frankly, only the metal components would actually be recycled here. Oftentimes our clients don't want to pay to disassemble these chairs at a component level. And so it would go through a shredding process, and then the metals would get recovered off the chair. So then the highest and best use for this chair would definitely be remanufacturing. What about a refrigerator or kitchenware in general?
Donate for sure. I don't think we've ever wasted a fridge unless it was broken. Everyone is looking for one. So if you've got fridges that you could no longer use, I promise there is a second home for them.
And then what about an industrial fridge?
And maybe donation too, but reman for sure. We've actually had a ton of industrial kitchens in our scope in the last couple of years. Some of our larger tech clients, but this has become a huge industry as well, apart from the furniture industry, right? We have many partners across the United States, especially, that will take these items in, refurb them, and then sell them out to typically restaurants. And so it's a great opportunity to extend the life cycle of a non-traditional product, I'd say.
That's awesome. What about soft seating or lounge?
Sarah, you go first.
I mean, it does depend on size for sure. As I did mention, in many cases, not every nonprofit can accommodate something huge. So it would always come back to being a discussion between myself and Rebecca. It might look at what else is in scope on a project as well if we've got other pieces going to resale. A couch really can swing both ways, but it is definitely a highly desirable product when it comes to the donation side of things.
Yeah, and on the resale side of things, so not all lounge furniture, I would say, is resale viable. It has to be from one of those major manufacturers or from a high value brand. So typically, we're not able to sell anything that is kind of residential sized, let's say, or residential themed, but a ton of our buyers and our refurbishers, and we even have specialty lounge buyers that buy only specific pieces from those major manufacturers. So definitely a lot of value left in lounge. As other chairs like we've talked about, you can reupholster lounge as needed, which is nice. And it tends to carry a lot of value, especially those specialized pieces that are, what we would say designer pieces from the major manufacturers.
Yes, no, it's heritage.
I think it's interesting how Rebecca comments the residential size doesn't go well for resale, but that's what goes best for donation. So this is just kind of fits together on how these different streams can really pair together for making the full project come together.
Yeah, that's a great
absolutely.
point. Our process works really well when everything's combined together so that we're offsetting as much as we possibly can from landfill. What about printer? I guess that would be me, or maybe a little donations. We have a really good network of electronics recyclers. So any electronic peripherals are easily recyclable usually. Sometimes you can even get value back for those if they're actually in working condition. And then Sarah, we also have some really great community benefit stories from the nonprofit side with recycling.
We do. So yeah, there are quite a few e-waste nonprofit organizations. We try to seek those out wherever we are if we have e-waste that can't be repurposed. What's wonderful about those organizations is they will do their best to refurbish things if they can and donate it to communities who could use them. But what else is wonderful is that often these nonprofits will employ people with disabilities or people recently out of incarceration, helping them get back on their feet. So I love the story that goes behind it as well.
Yeah, and then Rebecca, your team just sold a bunch of specialized printers recently too. So you never know. Sometimes there's some resale value there too.
Absolutely. And we are able to sell electronics. I made a face because traditional printers, I don't know if we can resell those. We'll definitely try. But we definitely have had opportunities to sell tech items. A lot of audiovisual equipment, I'd say, large scale, like risographs as well. So that's definitely something that there is a market for in the resale market.
Trash cans. What are we doing with trash cans?
Me. Don't trash the trash, as cheesy as that sounds, but we have had really good responses in regards to donating trash bins, especially to schools and school boards. So don't trash the trash, please.
This is a difficult one. Large wood conference table. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think this depends. Obviously, conference tables and large tables as a whole can be quite challenging because often they need to be cut to be removed from the space that they're in. So if they have to be cut, unfortunately, it's very difficult to resell them. However, the high value wood furniture that's often in executive suites or in corporate offices can be very valuable in the secondary market. It just is the size and how we can remove that item, which I think applies to all of us in this element.
Yeah, if it has to be cut down, we would look for local C&D recyclers, so construction and demolition recyclers, who could at least grind up that wood and use it for beneficial reuse purposes. Well, what about sit-stand desks? Very popular. Probably come in contact with these a lot.
Sarah, do you want to start on this one?
Well, I'll let you go first, actually.
Okay. So sit-stand desks tend to be very popular on the resale market, but again, it has to be from a major manufacturer. We saw during COVID, there was a huge flood in the market of products from overseas that just didn't have the same lifespan or value associated with them that the major manufacturers sit-stands did. So, and the other problem with them is they do tend to break down quite easily if they're not stored properly. So we can definitely resell them. It's just kind of selective about which ones we can resell. And then it goes to Sarah because it's a great opportunity for donation as well.
Exactly. We know that for resale, it usually requires being more named brands, but when it comes to donation, people aren't as picky. So we definitely see the divide when it comes to that. As well, we are also experiencing the crank desks, which can also be classified. They are sit stands, but can be looked at a little bit differently. So those will usually make their way to the donation side.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so your team goes through sort of like a vetting quality process there too, right? Making sure that anything that's getting donated is still of usable quality, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly, for sure. So our cranks there and attached to the tables or taped to the tables are the sit stands that are electric, actually working and functioning. All that is to be checked before it comes into our scope. We never want to donate items that don't have use, right? Or that would just put a burden on nonprofits. So I always say to the teams, like, if that's a chair that you don't want to sit on, they don't either. If the table doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for them either. We've got to vet all of that product.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Great.
I think it's a really good opportunity just to mention too is the importance of specialized removal surfaces for items like this. If these items can so easily be damaged when they're being removed or when they're being stored, and they lose all their value at that point, right? Especially on the resale market. Can they be fixed potentially? But it is a good it's a good practice to remember who's removing your items, who's storing your items, so that it's done effectively.
It's a great point. Thanks. So we're going to point back to the audience. Do you have anything where you want us to kind of go over what the next best use would be? Go ahead and throw it in the chat and we'll monitor the chat. So far, I'm not seeing anything. I see conference tables. Yep. Talked about that.
Yeah. There is a question I can jump in while we wait for a few comments, Heidi. So I saw a question come in about how about using some of these products as spare parts, and that's absolutely something we can do. A lot of our buyers actually keep stock of something like casters or arm pads or cylinders. When there's a damaged share that is unrecoverable, let's say, they can still take elements out. Another good example is workstations. So end caps and top caps and work surfaces and storage from workstations, even if the panels aren't highly desirable, our buyers are still going to take those items because they can use them towards other remanufacturing projects. So absolutely, when an item is unrecoverable, let's say, there are elements we can remove to make it just to grab some value, grab some reuse out of it as well.
Yeah, it almost becomes kind of a parts harvesting process for them. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go to the next slide here. I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about what we do from a reporting perspective, because I think that's important too. And don't forget about this. If you're not measuring your impact, you should be, and we can certainly help. One of the things that Green Standards does really well is measures impact on all of our projects. So this is just a snapshot of what you would see from a reporting perspective. We help share back all of the in-kind donation dollars from all of the work that Sarah's team is doing. We do that in a financial way, but again, those impact stories are really where that value lies. And so we also tell those donation testimonials. We'll give you back a disposition chart like you see here, where it breaks down where every asset went from a resale, recycling, donation perspective, reuse perspective, and if there is some landfill. We also give a ton of visibility to our clients on where those assets actually end up in a line of sight document. And then we give a snapshot, a map of where all the nonprofits were in the donation stories. And then we try to tell the environmental side of things too, from a carbon perspective, the emissions that were reduced from using our services and what those equivalencies look like. Our data, our carbon data, is reviewed by third party, and we're the only ones in the industry to go through that rigorous process of having third party reviewed data that's ISO aligned and proven to lead to real emissions reduction. So we're pretty proud of that as well. And let's see, I wanted to just say thank you to everyone. We're going to open up to general questions. I think there's been a couple that have come through the chat. But this is all of our contact information. We encourage you to get a hold of us. And then up in the right there is a QR code to our website where there's a lot of information, including all of the facility white papers and field guides that we've done over the years that might be valuable for you as a resource. Any questions or any opportunities to kind of come offline and ask questions, we'd love that.
I see there is a question here. It says, how do you ensure that furniture donation programs remain both environmentally sustainable and socially impactful over long term? So I'm happy to address that. So one of the things that we do is by keeping donations local. So wherever a project is taking place, we donate in that area. So for example, if the company itself that we are clearing out of is in New York City, we're donating within 30 miles of that project's address. If it's in Toronto, we're donating within 50 kilometers of that project's address. So we are ensuring that we are keeping it within the area reuse in that local community and not trucking things too far out. The other part of that, asking about, making sure that it's socially impactful and sustainable over long term. Well, I think the slide that I showed you guys with the chair for Okapika speaks a lot. Over the years, I've spoken with enough people to really learn that they are not taking furniture just to get rid of it again. Most of them either had furniture that was almost unusable or they were completely lacking pieces in the first place. So when they go to accept the furniture, they're accepting pieces they need because they get to cherry pick and are not required to take everything. That reduces a nonprofit accepting items that they would put back out to the dump because, they felt the pressure to accept it. We take that away by making it, piecemeal and allowing people to ask for only the items that make sense for what they need.
Mhm.
Hopefully that answered your question, Mohammed. Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
So I think I saw a few earlier here that we have. It says, I have offices across the state, not in one central location. So how would that be handled?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that Green Standards does really well. We specialize in doing portfolio-wide decommissioning. And so ultimately what we would do is come in and assess your portfolio locations, your timeframes, your project scope, and really understand your needs. And then we would help facilitate that decommissioning process across your entire portfolio, again, giving you the same level of service throughout. And then in the reporting, the benefit of utilizing us throughout your portfolio is that you get the same level of reporting and consistency in your metrics and impact reporting that can be shared either internally with your own employees because they actually really do care, or externally with external investor parties through your ESG reporting. Thanks, Sarah.
And there's another one that's making me chuckle. How old is too old? When do I call the junk man?
That's a funny one, actually, because I have a funny story I like to share with people when they say, how old is too old? And I say, well, I've sold furniture items that are older than I am, even in the last couple of years. So workstations that are from, the early 90s, Aerons that are from when they first came out in 95 or 96. So it's not too old. There's lots of furniture out there that has been built to last. And it's just getting it into the hands of the people that can make it like new or make it last longer, right? Sarah, Heidi, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, we just got a email. I wish we would have had this picture up because it's really funny. It's a Knoll Baratoa chair. It's beautiful leather chair, but it's actually in the basement, and the floor is all dirt floor, and the picture is like almost post-apocalyptic. But the chair actually still has value.
It still has great value because it's a designer lounge chair. So absolutely, it could be something that you haven't looked at in 20 years, but it's sitting in your storage, taking up space, taking up money, and there's an opportunity to get it into a second life instead of it just collecting dust. I think another question came in.
Yeah, I see one here. It says, what type of quantities are accepted? Does it have to be bulk lots?
It's a good question.
Do you guys want to take a stab at that? I can too.
Yeah, so generally speaking, it is a little bit on the larger side. About 20,000 square feet plus is what we recommend. Of course, we want the project to make sense for everybody, but there is always some different wiggle rooms on it, but it is a bit of a guideline that we suggest.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, from a financial perspective, it has to fill a truck, right, in order to make sense for our logistics providers. So traditionally, we say around 20,000 square feet. We have done less than that, but that's traditionally what would fill a truck to make it make sense. So it doesn't have to be bulk lots necessarily, but enough furniture to fill a truck.
Mm-hmm. I see another question.
I think it should be a regulation incentive to encourage companies to donate to increase ESG. We agree.
We agree.
Yeah. Unfortunately, especially here in the States, we probably aren't going to have a regulation pushing this anytime soon. But what we are starting to see is landfills fill up and the cost of going to landfill increase exponentially, especially on the West Coast. And then, I think California is kind of leading the way from a regulatory perspective as well, incentivizing scope 3 reporting. And if you're not aware, your waste generated in operations is actually part of your scope 3 reporting. Most companies, large companies, even medium-sized companies are setting environmental targets and social targets. And even if you haven't explicitly called out your waste from office changes and moves, that is a waste stream that should be managed in your goals and targets. And one of the things Green Standards does really well is we help you set that target, help you set that baseline, understand what you've been doing in the past, and our metrics can actually show progress against that. So we can help you with your regulatory needs.
There's another question that came earlier. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I'm just going to pivot a little bit. I mean, it's maybe a little bit of like, which comes first, but when we are speaking with people, we always encourage them that if they do have any nonprofits, that they work with, a lot of organizations have preferred nonprofit lists from CSR initiatives. Like, we love to link that together for them. We can help many others, but we can also incorporate the CSR initiatives of an organization. So it is nice when we can bring all that together.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw a question that came in earlier that says, what about specialized manufacturing equipment? And, I think we have gone over that a little bit in this call. We are able to find a market for almost anything, let's say, but it would depend on what the equipment is. But it's something that Green Standards is always ready to take a stab at it and see what we can do with something, whether that's through donation or resale or ultimately recycling if need be.
All right. Any other questions? Well, I think we're going to wrap. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We appreciate it. I know everyone has busy schedules, so we really appreciate the time spent with us today. And thank you, Sarah and Rebecca, for joining me on this. It was really fun and interactive. Appreciate your time as well. So thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.